Call the Grant County Board of Commissioners to order Tuesday, February 21st. All members present. And, I would ask you to stand. I'll lead us in prayer, and Mr. Stewart will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Shall we bow in an attitude of prayer? Gracious God, Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning as we think about all the things that are going on in the world, the wars, the natural disasters, the things that are taking life. And we're asking that you would help this weary world in the things that we need. And again, Father, we're grateful for little highlights of when you show yourself. Thank you for the services that are going on in Wilmore, Kentucky, showing us a little bit more of you, and that there is hope and that there is help here. We pray, Lord, that you will grant our world your anointing, your direction, your grace. And we pray today, Father, as we do the business of the county, that you will give us wisdom and direction for all that we do. Help us to follow after you. It's in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated, please. Moving through our agenda, we have claims, minutes, payroll. First item with the claims, pre-approval was given on February the 13th for invoice edit reports. General invoice edit report batch was $88,980.79. Other batch was $30,718.63. Highway batch $24,996.02, for a grand total $144,695.44. That was given a pre-approval by the president, and we would need a motion to ratify that agreement.
So moved.
Second. Motion with support. Any other discussion on that? So all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, is carried. Then we have today's invoice edit reports. General batch would include $277,598.33. And the other batch would be $45,849.20 for a grand total $323,447.53. We would need a motion to approve those expenditures.
So moved.
I'll second. Motion, Mr. Wright, second, Mr. Stewart. Any questions on those invoice edits? Sir. Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, it is carried. And payroll number 4, we had a pre-approval given on the 14th. Gross amount was $603,536.38, and that was paid out on the 17th. Did give a pre-approval for that, and we would need a motion to ratify that, payroll 4.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion, Mr. Stewart, second, Mr. Wright. Usually don't have questions on payroll, do we? All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is carried. We also have regular session minutes, September the 19th, October the 3rd. And so I guess Steve and I are responsible for that. You hadn't joined us yet.
So I will make a motion to accept it. Do we need to do each individual, or can we?
We can do both at the same time.
I recommend or make a motion that we pass regular session minutes from September 19th, October 3rd.
I will second that. We have already done our editing on that, so I think we're good. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those abstaining? Aye. Carried 2 to 1 abstention. Got that section done. Communication and board updates. We'll start with our auditor, move around the room. Anything from the auditor's office? All right.
Good.
Other elected officials, special boards. Very good. Hearing none. IT, Marcus is sitting down.
Got a couple items here. Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
So I got two items for you today. The first one is basically we're looking to add a small HP LaserJet Pro printer for central dispatch. Kevin reached out to me. He was saying they have a dedicated station for that they run reports on for the 911 calls, stuff like that. And AT&T supplied a like a little personal printer, but Kevin, he's been paying, $70-80 a pop for toners because that machine's not covered under the existing plan for the copiers and printers. So we're looking to basically take that machine out and put this machine in. Kevin says he would pay for the machine outright out of his budget. So basically, we would just need permission to add that machine on to the current maintenance agreement. And the cost to do that, the monthly base is $4.50.
Would that AT&T unit go back to them?
No,
Is it?
I believe it's ours. It's one that they gave us,
Okay.
my understanding.
So you're looking just for the approval for $4?
Yes, because it's be an addendum to that
Gotcha.
agreement.
And giving him permission to.
Yeah,
Purchase.
to purchase it.
Out of budget.
Yeah, and he said he would pay for it out of his budget.
He's got the money, that's good, and I think we can handle the less than $5.
Yeah.
Addition, so
You need a motion on
we
that.
would need a motion.
Make the motion.
I'll second. Motion, Mr. Wright, to approve the purchase and addition on our inventory. Second, Mr. Stewart. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is approved.
Thank you. And then the next item, it was brought to our attention, back in October, November. We went over to Central Dispatch to, work with the UPS vendor that does maintenance and support on, they have a APC Galaxy UPS unit for Central Dispatch. So for those of you who don't know, a UPS is basically the device that keeps so in the event of a power outage, the UPS holds the power load while the generator goes. So it basically prevents it, so that way none of their devices shut off in the middle of an outage. So we went out there to work with the vendor, and they were not able to do maintenance on the system because we do not have they call it a manual bypass switch. I talked with the guy and he said we were the first place he's seen that didn't have that accessory on our system. He says you can get it's like a cabinet that basically it hooks into the side, or you get basically you wire a panel up to any side of the wall, and basically you just pull that lever and that'll bypass the power without taking it down. So they were telling me they couldn't do maintenance or service the UPS without taking dispatch down. So basically, without us not having that switch, we won't be able to properly service that device without interrupting dispatch. So I met with Rex Collins Electric. They were the ones that were initially, they were involved in I believe in the bid and like the wiring and the electrical stuff for the central dispatch project. And Michael Collins and one of his colleagues, they came out and looked at it, and they gave us a proposal
So for all the labor and the actual manual bypass switch and all the work, the total sum for that is $10,320 for that. So I just wanted to get your gentleman's thoughts on it.
The system is called UPS system.
Yeah, it's a APC UPS Galaxy system is what they call it.
How long has it been in place?
2020, I'm pretty sure it's 2020 or 2021. It's whenever Central Dispatch went live is when they put it in. So I'm thinking it's 2020.
So we're just now finding this out that they need this.
Right. Like I said, they came out and they, like they looked at it, because I guess they normally what they do, they look at it and they pull numbers off of it and they do a load test on it and stuff like that, just to make sure it's working. To my understanding, like when the UPS first went live, they was not out there the first time to facilitate that check. So basically, they had to come back out, and I think they just did a basic thing where they pulled numbers and the serial number off of it to get it on the maintenance plan. Because I know for a while it wasn't covered under maintenance. They only came with the 1 year. So, but now it's covered under the maintenance agreement. So.
I can't tell you whether that was an engineering flaw or whether that was just something as we were putting in the compliance that, it didn't.
Yeah, the guys that came out, they told me, he said we were the first place he's seen that didn't have the bypass cabinet add-on or the switch. Because he said normally because when they do, because you gotta think for the UPS, it's almost like a big computer. It has its own bypass system on the inside of it, but whenever they do updates to the firmware, so it updates the little computer boards on the inside of it. When that happens, it'll drop the load. But if you have that bypass panel or switch in there, you can switch it over to that and it won't drop the load. So that's kind of where we're at.
Just speaking frankly, it kind of concerns me. It took us 3 years to find this out.
That's a,
Well, we can't have central dispatch down, right? I mean,
it's 24/7. So
it is.
Yeah, and the method he had, he recommended us go with the panel option, because if he was to do the option where it's like you hook it onto the side, it's a lot more involved, and that's an all day type deal. Whereas with the panel, he said there's most of the work he can do ahead of time. And he was saying, interruption to dispatch would be no more than an hour from what he told me. So.
it's a pretty expensive on-off switch, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Kind of surprised me. As far as the backup generator and things like that, does it take care of that as well? I mean, it's not going to.
This isn't related to the generator per se. This is the UPS. So this is basically, this keeps the stuff up and running in between the transfer to the generator.
Lack of better technology, it's the battery backup.
Right.
Keeps it going until the generator kicks in.
Correct. Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So it's so that way it's there to hold it up. So generator kicks on.
Appropriation, do you have that in funds or how does this work?
Like I said, I know Kevin, I think he helped pay for the support and stuff out of his budget. But I know you guys have a preventive maintenance fund, so I don't know if it would come out of that.
I'm kind of thinking because it's a part of our equipment that it would come out of our maintenance.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, that was my thoughts on it.
it makes sense to take it out of maintenance.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Because if we have an elevator, we have, other mechanical things that go down, that's where we go.
Okay.
There's not be any other surprises once they get in there, put this in. That's right.
I wouldn't think so. We met with him, Electric Plus last week, and he inspected the unit and looked at all the panels and looked at where power came into the building. He was there in 20 minutes. He didn't really say a whole lot.
He didn't say, uh-oh.
No, he didn't say uh-oh, so, he was a man of few words, so, I wouldn't anticipate any surprises with it. He made it sound like he could do it in an hour, so it shouldn't be too disruptive except for that hour.
This is probably a Kevin question, and I don't want to get us run off on a rabbit trail, but we do know that I think we're, at least for the handheld walkies for our officers and fire out there, we've got to go to P25 compliance. Have you guys talked about any cost factor in our central dispatch for that?
He hasn't said anything to me. I haven't heard anything about that cost factor, but I can follow up with him on that.
If you would, that way, if we've got any more surprises, at least we'll know, because it's costing Marion, it's costing the sheriff's department, other departments money to upgrade to the state requirement. So I want to make sure we don't get caught with a
Sure.
cost too.
Yeah, absolutely. I can reach out to Kevin and see what's going on with that.
So back to the manual bypass switch.
Sounds like it's a necessity.
I don't think we have a choice. I'm not happy about it, but reluctantly make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, Mr. Stewart, second, Mr. Wright, to move forward with the manual bypass switch. I want to say $10,320.
Yeah, so he had $10,320.
Got that motion? Any other discussion? Sir. Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye, it is carried.
All right. And, so I'll give you guys the paperwork for it.
You just have to start watching Ron. Anytime you notice to
Yeah.
a meeting and smiles. You know,
Yeah, it's usually never good. So, thanks again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, Highway Department?
Morning.
The first thing I was gonna bring up is the fuel bids and stone bids received at the last meeting. The only company that gave us a price for fuel was Dawson Oil Company and here in Marion. I'd recommend that we go ahead and go with them again, if that's all right. And then the stone bid, we got one from Rock Creek and, which is up by Bluffton, Indiana. And the other one is from IMI, here in Grant County. I'd like to receive both bids if I could, because some products is a whole lot cheaper at Rock Creek than at IMI. For example, 53 stone that we use quite often at Rock Creek is $6.95 a ton. And Junior out here at Swayze is $13.60 a ton. So if it's $5-6 a ton cheaper, I can drive up there and save money. So I'd like to use both if I could on certain products. So
And so they'll let you cherry pick.
Yeah.
It's not all inclusive, right?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
whatever we want.
all right, makes sense.
So your recommendation is to use Dawson Oil for our fuel and the Rock Creek and IMI for our stone resources? I think we can go by common consent on that, gentlemen, if you're willing.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think we move forward. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. On the unofficial detour, the lady did not give me the paperwork for State Road 37, so as soon as I receive that, I'll get it, so you can get it signed off.
Does that require all three or a president?
Usually all three.
Okay.
Yep. Bridge 16, which is out on County Road EOOW north, almost between 600 and 700 north. We have 3 parcels we need to buy for right of way. I just happened to be up here the other day. Mr. Wright signed off on it for the buyer to go out and talk to the landowners and see if they agree. I'm going to say the purchase price of what he signed off on. That's not saying that the landowner will agree, but I'll just say the price and then we'll go on. Parcel one was $500. I'm sorry, $3,100. Parcel two was $1,900. And parcel three was $500. The engineering firm that's United doing all this work, they'll go out and talk to the landowners, see if they agree on selling their right of way for this amount. And then if they do, then I'll bring a claim and we'll pay that out of the bridge fund. So just to update you on that. So Mr. Wright did sign off on it for me. So. The next thing I had to bring up is we was contacted by the city of Marion to help them replace a big culvert pipe here in Marion, up in the area of Marshall and Illinois, which is basically on the northeast side of the city.
Little gully down in there.
Yes.
Yep.
They want to know if we could help them, assist them on changing a culvert pipe, which I know we've done in the past. Fine with it if you gentlemen are fine with it, so.
You're talking about a slip?
No, actually, we're gonna put plastic in there. There's enough cover on there that, we'll probably put a 48-inch diameter, pipe in there if that's all right. I've already talked to, Mr. Graff from the city and he said do whatever we want, so. If you gentlemen are all right with us changing that for them.
So technically, is that a part of our bridge inventory or is that a part of theirs?
That's theirs. Yeah.
And would we be paying for the just labor that we're doing, or are we doing the material as well?
They'll pay for the material.
They're the material.
The labor part of this.
We've done that for other municipalities, so it's not an unusual request.
Do you need a consent on that, or do you need?
Since we are going to use our time and labor for municipality preparation. Motion on that.
I'll make the motion and then we'll go ahead and support the city and take care of that.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Wright made that motion. Mr. Stewart seconded it. Any other discussion or questions for David? So, hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. It's carried.
Thank you. I'd like to set up March 20th for our liquid asphalt and asphalt material for 2023, if that time's all right with you, gentlemen.
That's for bids.
Yes, yeah, those are for bids, so that date's all right for you gentlemen. I'll get advertised and all that, so. The next thing I have to bring up, and I'm gonna blow Marcus's $4 way out of the water, so.
I've been good. It's about 10 grand, so.
That's more than 10 grand.
I received a phone call last week when I was gone, and Tony, my assistant, called back. We received a phone call from NDOT on Bridge 712, the one we applied for federal aid money for in January. Basically, what they asked was if we'd be interested in paying for the engineering, the design of it. If you look on that second page, everything's an 80-20 split. So in other words, if we went through the federal aid process, if we paid for it, it would be like $95,600. The total would be $478,000. I have a feeling that it's going to take a lot more than just paying for design to get this project. And I guess I don't really want to leave it on the table and not be able to get this project. So what I did was on the front page, I kind of I think we ought to go ahead and try to pay for the right of way. And I think we ought to pay for the design. And then I put the construction match that would leave 20%. And then the construction inspection, like when they're building it, we have to pay an engineering firm to inspect it. So it'd be like 20% of that. And then utilities, the city of Marion has a big water line on there, a 10-inch water main that we're gonna have to relocate. So that we would ask that to be paid for by the federal government. And we'd only have to pay 20% of that match. So,
When we say 712, is that the Branson Street?
yes, yeah, yes. So I guess I kind of did what a total would be if we paid all this that I've listed. $1,009,000. And I kind of separated out if we could pay for a portion of it in 4 years budgeted. So we were ready that when 2028, it'd be ready to go to bid for construction. I just have a feeling that if we just say we're gonna pay for the engineering services, I know that other counties have already received phone calls asking the same question, saying, hey, if you pay the design, we might give you the job. I think we gotta do something more to say, hey, you know, we want this job to happen, because otherwise they're gonna say, well, everybody else has said the same thing, we don't have this much money, this is the ones we're gonna pick, kind of thing. Like I said, the utility or the right of way is only $100,000. I think that's a small price compared to the rest of the project. And if you see, if we did pay 80/20 on everything on the second page, it'd be $1,004,000 at least. So, I mean, we're basically almost another $500,000, but I think if it makes our chances better, get the project is what I'm thinking. Otherwise, there's no way that we can build a $7 million bridge in 5 years or 20 years, the way I look at it. That's my opinion. So kind of falls back on you guys, what you want me to tell NDOT we'd like to do and how we'd like to advance forward. Because like I said, I received this phone call last Thursday, I believe it was, that Tony called, told me, and that's basically where we stand.
This project would take place in what year?
Construction would be probably 2028.
Okay.
Do you think we're putting our best foot forward to present a package like this?
Yes. I talked to the engineering, BF&S, the ones that's helped us on getting my numbers and everything together. I talked to him yesterday afternoon. He said, well, you know, pay for the engineering. And I said, well, that's another thing too, is if we go with a company that we both work with for quite a few years, it might be cheaper even on the design part. I know they have to do the utilities design and everything else, but hopefully they might be able to lower that a little bit. We won't have to go through that scoring process to find an engineering firm and all that. So my personal opinion is even if we don't get the job, we need to go ahead and start getting it designed.
Yes.
I mean, to get it shelf ready. Because, so these projects, when we get ready to go, they got extra money that they're wanting to use. We got something ready to say, here, we got the money, we got the project already designed. That's what Pennsylvania Street basically was. We had it ready and they had some money where some other communities had stopped their projects and didn't decide to go forward. And they had like $6 million sitting there. So that's how we got that project.
So would we start this 4-year budget plan in 2024
Yes,
and start, that way we'll have the money?
right. That's my
Okay.
thought.
Okay.
Now, again, there's a twist there. They might could go early,
Right.
but we would at least have a 4-year plan established that way.
And just to let you know, on Pennsylvania Street Bridge, what happened was that was when COVID started and it went $1 million more than what it was projected. So what the state did, they came back to us and said, can you come up with $1 million? I'm like, no. They said, well, could you go under 20% of it? I said, I can look into that. So that's what I presented to commissioners. We actually did was move some money around and we did get that, our 20%, so we can do that project. So
I think it's a positive move to have some shovel-ready plans because Congress can always come up with special money, infrastructure projects, and if we've got things on the shelf ready to go, that just moves us up to the head of the line.
I agree.
So you're ready to authorize the highway department superintendent to move forward with preliminary engineering?
do you want me to tell them that we'll do the right of way too? I'm just talking to the state right now.
State right now.
Yeah. I think if we tell them that we're gonna do both of those steps, that we'll pay 100% of it, they'll know that we're in for long haul kind of thing, so.
I think we're testing the waters, dangling the carrot, see if it's fight or not. So I think by our consent, we're good with that.
Okay, all right. I'll submit that this afternoon then, so. And then I had one other thing to bring up today is I did get a hold of Mrs. Keith on Crane Pond, and I was supposed to meet with her this afternoon at 1. I know it's kind of short notice. If you want to attend, she said you talked to her boyfriend or something the other day, so. I'm supposed to meet with her unless you want to come out. Anybody wants to come
I
out.
have multiple meetings, so I doubt.
I was gonna meet later this week, but with the weather conditions, I asked her if I could meet her this afternoon at 1, so.
I will try to be there.
Okay.
I'm meeting with AEP
Okay,
at noon, and so just went by there then
I'm trying to figure out, make sure we get all our ducks in a row on that project,
Yeah.
so.
Yep.
Just to update you on that, there's a tile project that we're wanting to try and get rid of some water away from the people's house and stuff, so.
Yeah, I think I'm a little familiar with it. I've
Okay.
Yeah. heard some information on it. Thank you.
Yep.
We were gonna ask you another question and I forgot what it was.
I don't remember it either. I was trying to think of it.
That's funny. Stick around, Dave.
Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I'm pretty well ready. I mean, I got some stuff in there, but I can get it out if whenever you want it.
You're ready to move all your equipment out to Northway and
Yes.
yeah, we want to take care of those properties out there and we will start dialogue with Boys and Girls Club.
I think I gave all the information to Kyle on the deed and abstract and all that.
I'll double check.
I think I gave all that to him, so yeah, it won't take me a couple days to get out of there, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Old business, proposal of liability renewal. We had that presentation last week. Is Gregor represented from IMG here?
No,
Okay.
this is just a ratification of your pre-approval on the 14th.
Once we had a dialogue, Mr. Stewart asked some good questions and Greg went back and sharpened up his pencil and saved the county some reasonable amount of money on that fee. And so we went ahead then and pre-approved that agreement, and we need to get your ratification on that.
I'll make a motion to ratify that.
I'll second.
Motion to ratify the liability renewal with IMG. And that was Mr. Stewart. Mr. Wright seconded. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is approved, ratified. We do have a county board health appointment. Recommendation that Sarah Stewart be appointed 21st day of February and term expiring on the 31st of December of 2026. This is replacing Chad Lighting, who resigned. So that recommendation is coming to us, gentlemen, and if we make this appointment, I think that fills up the health board, then, doesn't it?
It does. Commissioner Bardsley, Sarah's in the audience. If we want to fire any tough questions at her, we could bring her to the podium.
Well, we could ask her if she wants to do any more public service announcements for COVID like she used to.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Sarah Seward to fill the health board position.
I'll second that.
Right, and we've previously mentioned the dates of service. Motion with support. Any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Sarah Seward to that appointment would say aye.
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 Thanks for your service.
Thanks, Sarah.
Signature has been made. We're in good shape. Thank you. All right. Under new business, we have a presentation of grant awards. Melissa, I saw you smiling a little while ago.
Morning. So we've had several of grant awards. We've kind of time for our annual report for what we're doing over at Court Services, about grant funding and opportunities that we have currently. So I'd like to start with the grants that fall under the probation category. So at Court Services, we serve both probation and community corrections. So within the probation department, we have several different grants that I want to kind of walk through with you today. The first one I want to talk about is the Indiana Office of Court Services Pretrial Services Grant Award. We're currently operating on, this is an annual award. Our current award was for $215,518. And this pays for 3 full-time probation officers who are assigned a pretrial service program and 30% of their fringe benefits along with a stipend for the coordinator and local attorney fees for meaningful first hearings. So that grant covers those expenses. So you might recall, or it might be new news, that the funding beginning in 2022 took an unexpected turn when the funding had to be really reprioritized. So pretrial services is gaining a lot of attention throughout the state. And so they had to think about how do we reprioritize the funding amounts, and due to the demand relative to the amount of funds available. And as a result, the existing staff salaries were preserved. So they paid the salaries and they put a cap at 30% of the fringe benefits for those positions. And they took that based on the individual salary. And that created a deficit to cover for the remaining benefits for the 3 probation officers that were being paid out of the pretrial services grant. Last year, the commissioners have agreed to pay the 70% deficit of those fringe benefits. And our request would be for them to continue to do so if the funding continues and to have that deficit in that way. We've received 2 awards since that happened, both for the same. So my guess is we apply for it all and they end up kind of capping those at 30%. Should those reductions remain consistent this year, then I would communicate those immediately to the commissioner's office so that those numbers could be included in your budget request. As long as we're notified before budget season. Because of the reduction being awarded in the funds the past 2 years and the deficit for being paid out was paid out of the commissioner's budget, I wanted to bring this grant up to your attention before we apply for the funds in the future. Last year, the grant application opened in April. So I anticipate a similar timeline this year. They've rolled those into calendar years now. So my guess is it'll open in within the next few months. So I wanted to make sure That was still consistent. If you guys are still, authorizing the deficit to be paid out of the commissioner's budget.
And remind me, that's pretty much our FICA and our other benefit packages that we're paying toward
Yeah, it'll be all those.
the insurance and
Mhm. Yeah, so FICA for insurance, things like that. So I believe it was a little shy of $50,000 this year.
So I'm understanding this, maybe Mr. Stewart got it. The grant will pay for the labor costs per se, but the benefits is up to us.
Yeah, a significant portion is, so it pays for the salaries
Okay.
for the staff.
Yep.
What it doesn't, it caps each salary, so, they're paid at the probation officer salary scale, so they change based on their
Okay.
years of service. So what they do is they cap each individual salary at 30%. They pay 30% of the benefits, so the remaining 70% has to be, paid elsewhere.
we did that for 23.
Okay.
She's asking us to consider it for 24.
24.
It's 23, the first year we did that.
Is it not?
It's the second.
Second, yeah.
Second.
Is that a motion that you need or?
Technically, we would have to move that because we would be committing to probation for that 70% of the benefits package.
And so out of our funds, where does that come out of our funds? Is that contractual? Is it?
That comes out of our FICA benefits line item.
And we've already got that money for the 23, so we wouldn't be increasing it necessarily for 24 unless there's an increase in FICA, correct?
Do you want to answer that a little bit better?
Yeah, there's enough appropriation in there to cover this.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's been kind of planned for.
Yes.
And actually, Judge, last week at the council, was kind of prepping them with some of the opioid settlement money. We're seeing that, he was asking the council for some commitments for long-term support. The same that we're doing in this grant for, some future employment issues. So it's not that we're going to bear that whole brunt. The council will also say, yeah, we're going to commit to a project direction too. So,
Chair, ready for a motion?
sure.
I don't know how to make that motion. I would move that we would, I would move that we pass, the requests for our portion of the FICA benefits, for these grants.
And that's pretrial services.
Yes, it's for trial services.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Right, we have a motion with support. You want to discuss that? Any more questions that you have for Melissa on that?
I think I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's carried.
Thank you. I'm happy to share information with you about the number of clients that we're serving in pretrial services that have, the public safety rate for clients completing court appearance rates, average daily time, the jail impact, if you want to know that information that we have.
Do you want to go over that, or would you like to see that in a, maybe a written?
Either that,
We could get it written.
yeah, just send it in an email maybe to us. That'd be great. Yeah, I would be interested.
In 2023, we received a little over $2 million in grant awards through court services. The first one I want to talk about is we have a BJA grant that we're currently working under for drug court. The total amount was $466,032 over the spread of 3 years. It's currently set to expire in September 30th of this year. We do have plans to apply for a no-cost extension. We received the grant in 2020. So we all know that year was a challenging year, and so we have some extra funds available. So we're actually going to apply for a no-cost extension. to try to repurpose and kind of stretch out the benefits of this particular grant. With those, you just don't know if those will be approved, but that's kind of our anticipation. This grant pays for the salary and benefits for a full-time drug court probation officer. We took drug court and increased capacity. And so when we increased capacity, we had to have enough staff to cover the clients participating. It also covers contract work for inpatient services coordination and transportation and program evaluation, training, and monthly community recovery events. So all of those are encompassed in that particular grant. Another grant that we have is OJP Family Recovery Court Grant. This is actually operating on a no-cost extension right now. The original grant amount was $493,722, spread over 3 years. And then we were also given a no-cost extension that is set to expire September 30th of this year. And this pays for half the salary and benefits of our full-time family recovery court coordinator, overtime for clerical expenses, overtime for grant management support, childcare for participants, contracted CASA employee, contracted FSSI participant services, training, program evaluation, participant incentives, supplies, attorney fees, your analysis. So it kind of spans a lot of expenses. This will be expiring this year in September. The next one we have is the Indiana Office of Court Services Justice Partners Grant. This kind of runs on a different calendar. It runs October 1st of 22 through the end of September of this year. This is probably the 4th year we've had this one, I believe. So it pays for training and travel for a national treatment court conference, treatment interventions, and funding to train and certify 16 peer recovery coaches. So we're looking at ways to take our current participants that are doing really well with lived experience in recovery and creating opportunities for them to go through the certification process. That one will make them have a vocation that they can continue to give back, which helps with long-term sustainability and recovery. So we're looking at investing those resources in that training process. We have several of them that are in the process of going through that certification now. So that's what that grant covers. The certification actually runs about $1,000 a person. So this grant is allowing us to make a significant impact for 16 individuals. We have the Indiana Office of Court Services Drug Court Grant, and that was $5,600. This one is set to expire June of the 30th of 23. They actually just opened or just closed. They changed their funding time for next year, which is not uncommon. So there's actually going to be an overlap of funds that are awarded this year. They will run April 1st through the end of the year. So we'll have a little overlap of all of those grant awards. But this one pays for incentives and trainings for drug court. Then we have the Indiana Office of Court Services Veterans Treatment Court. And it was $7,000. This pays for participant needs and training. The Superior Court 2 oversees and manages the Indiana Office of Court Services Family Recovery Court Grant, and that was $8,500 for this year. And then we have a DART, which is a local community opportunity, and that's the drug court grant. We have $1,500 for that grant award. So those are all grants that are coming through probation. Then other grants that we have coming through community corrections would be the Indiana Office of Court Services Reentry Court Grant. And that's $8,000. And this helps to pay for substance abuse and mental health assessments and treatment, temporary housing incentives, trainings, drug screens, things like that. Then there's the DART Community Corrections Grant, and that was $8,000 this year. So this pays for contractual services with Radiant Health, Grace House, Rescue Mission, St. Martin's, and incentives and drug screens. So looking at a collaborative community approach with those funds. Then we have the Community Corrections Supervision Grant. That's $881,128. This grant provides money for 12 full-time staff members' salaries, insurance, and benefits. That's coming from the Indiana Department of Corrections. We also have the Court Recidivism Reduction Grant, and that's $391,450. And these funds pay for 7 full-time staff members' salaries, insurance, and benefits. Then we have the jail treatment. It's also called 1006 funds. It's $52,500. These are contractual services with Radiant Health to provide treatment services in the jail. So that could be MRT and Seeking Safety that they run, gender specific. So those are happening while incarcerated. And we have a collaborative team that meets every 2 weeks to talk about progress, potential participants in those services, really trying to target who's best fit for those while they're incarcerated. And then the last one we have is the Indiana Office of Court Services Court Reform Grant. That's $78,742. And this is really for security upgrades for the courthouse. So it's doubling the amount of cameras in the courthouse and adding a mobile stations to allow security to view different locations. So that's really a snapshot of the grants that we have currently this year. And the ones that we anticipate applying for again as they become available.
There are certain ones that the court authorizes to go through. Are there any of these that we need to give our blessing on? Or
The,
we did, I think, the court reform grant already.
yes,
That was for the cameras that we were putting up, so we've taken care of that. Are there any of these others that need our blessing?
so the Indiana Office of Court Services grants are usually between court services or the courts and the Indiana Office of Court Services. Those are don't require signature. The ones that do require signature would be your federal grants, and those have already been authorized 3+ years ago. So those are authorized when grant award is received. We present those for you and you would sign them then.
Other questions?
Sir, a lot of money.
We really are running with a lot of grants to keep things going with probation and corrections services, aren't we?
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of, community corrections is really operating mostly on Indiana Department of Corrections grants. Thankfully, those are pretty stable. They've been relying on those grants for many years. We just have to continue to provide the outcomes and apply for each one as they come along.
And do the reports.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I think the only other one that you already talked about too, in terms of having approval would be just because of the coverage of the deficit for the benefits for pretrial services. That is a Indiana Office of Court Services grant, but you're paying the deficit. So we've already covered that one. I think everything else is really taken care of.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next opioid settlement grant proposal. Stephanie is not with us today. We have another representative. You would come on up and introduce yourself. We would greatly appreciate it.
Stephanie sends her apologies, but she needed to be at the State House. So my name is Kelly Hostetler, and I've been working the last 4 years pretty significantly with grants also at the hospital, and in particular working with of the substance use issues that we have going on in Grant County. So I want to give you a little bit of background on where we're coming. This has been kind of a rushed agenda item, and Justin has been excellent to help us get on board. The state is the rusher, so just so you're a little bit aware. But as a not-for-profit hospital, Marion Health is required every 3 years to do a comprehensive needs assessment, because part of the role of a not-for-profit hospital is to not only know the needs, but to look at how can we provide the leadership to meet those needs in the community. And so it's a constant go. And as we do that, we have to meet with many different organizations. And so our needs assessments, the last two, which would have been over the last 6 years, Indiana Youth Institute, which we work with a lot, they do a comprehensive data for youth all across the state, and they do break it down per county. So we have data from them, the Indiana Department of Health. We have several formats of data that we can get to help us with this needs assessment, obviously CDC. And so one of the things that has been top priority on many of these needs assessment, and I really don't, this is not news to anyone in this room, is the substance use issues going on in our communities and the co-occurring issue of mental health. Or, sometimes it's mental health that drives people to substance use, sometimes substance use then facilitates issues that happen with mental health. So with this need really rising, we had been meeting with many. We have a core consortium that meets monthly. We have a substance abuse task force that meets quarterly with as many as 20 to 40 different organizations of the community that are trying to address this issue. And that includes law enforcement and kind of across the board. So we just recently had an opportunity to come across in late January that the state, now for the opioid settlement, I know you mentioned that a little bit earlier, and I know we have spoken with Judge Spitzer because I knew he was on the original distribution committee for the opioid settlement. So it's kind of clear and kind of not clear. This is a second pot of money for the opioid settlement. So the opioid settlement that was talked about in the fall, there was this big spreadsheet that the state put out that said every city, every town, every county is going to get this much money over the next this many years from the opioid settlement. And we know that you have already been approached about utilizing some of that money, et cetera. Well, another grant opportunity came aware in late January. That is a matching grant that's put together by the state. And so we talked to Radiant Health, we talked to Meridian, we talked to the courts, we've talked to several others to find out, is anybody else going for this grant? Because they prefer only one from a county. And so, we were asking, we met with Radiant Health just last week on how we were to do this. And so we have a lot of input on things that people would like to have done. We have a 15-page document from the state of things we could do. And of course, all big and well and good things. And until last week, we got this frequently asked question document. You can see it's kind of small. It's multiple pages. We found out just last week that the state is now requiring that you, the county commissioners, we did know you would have to sign off on it. And you mentioned giving a blessing. So we would need that. But the new requirement that we found out about mid last week was that we need you to contribute the match. Okay, so I know that kind of can raise some eyebrows, but my colleague Pam sat on multiple calls with the state, finding out how they want to roll out this grant, and the rules kind of rolled. With each call, there was more definition to the rules. And so until the frequently asked questions came out officially, we did not know that. So that's why we're a little rushed. And so we talked to Judge Spitzer and he referred us to Justin, and Justin really helped facilitate getting us here today. So we have met with Marion Health leadership. And actually Sarah was on that call yesterday with us and trying to discern what we're going to do with the money and how we're going to use it. And so this grant is due next week. actually a week from today. And so we were grateful that you had a meeting scheduled, knowing he said we had to, bring it to this meeting. And so we are kind of really in this speed mode to try and do this. And Melissa can attest that writing these level of grants quickly is a humongous challenge. So we are been real grateful for Justin's help in doing this. So one of the things that we're looking at doing this, and the state is telling us that there will be more distributions down the road that may look similar to this one with the match. As you're aware, the money that was allocated in the fall that the city got, Grant County got, Gas City got, did not require any match. You just got the money. This requires a match, and we actually have to write a grant. And in our communication, and I think back and forth even with you earlier in email, Marion Health would be the grantee. So this would not be money distributed directly to Grant County. That might make you happy too as the auditor. So we're not expecting any staff commitment, labor commitment, anything else other than your signature on that you are authorizing us to receive these funds as Marion Health, and that they are insisting that it be a community-wide project, which is why we've already met with a number of entities. So as we look at what we're going to do this, and also there would not be any liability to the commissioners or to the county. Marion Health would be in charge of all the financial aspects of that. And it's a reimbursed-based grant. So we have to spend the money and then get it reimbursed. And so that also, we're not just getting a large dump of money. So we're anticipating asking for between $500,000 and $700,000 for this project. And the basis of it, without going into a lot of detail, would be to strengthen Marion Health's ability to respond to all of the SUD, the substance use disorder, people that are struggling, families that are struggling. We see it so much in our ER. Our EMS sees it, our OB sees it. It's just huge. And our capacity is limited on how to help people in that scenario. So one of the bigger portions of this grant would be to increase our staff capacity, staff that would be dedicated to dealing with people who are struggling with substance use disorder and mental health, or one sort of both of the other. Because as you well know, if any of you have been in healthcare services, we are strapped with staff, and our nurses are very busy doing what nurses do, and our physicians. And so we would be bringing on some staff that would be more specialized in dealing just with this. And in increasing the safety net that we have and sort of this wraparound, we will be able to do a much more effective handoff to services like Radiant Health, services like Meridian or Bowen, the different ones that are actually behavioral health providers or mental health providers. But right now, some of our limitation is we're dealing with a situation at the hospital, and let's say it's off hours, we give them a number to call tomorrow. And often you lose that moment. And so we want to enhance our staff and increase our staff to be able to deal with the people that are there in that moment in the crisis, because they're more vulnerable at that time, especially, and we have many friends that we've been working with the last few years that are in recovery. And they talk about when their children were born, at that moment, an intervention might have made a difference in that moment, but not next day. And so we know we have this kind of hot iron availability. And when we think about this grant, one of their goals was it needs to serve all of Grant County. Well, we see from birth to death, all ages that come through Marion Health. And service could also be utilized possibly for our primary care outside of inpatient, but I think our first priority would be inpatient. But we run into scenarios where our primary care providers don't even really know what they're dealing with, because we don't have a diagnosis yet as far as mental health or substance use disorder. So we are asking for you to sign. I have a paper here that the state provided to us that you would need to sign off on. And it's basically authorization for dispense local funds. They want your blessing. They want you to know about what we're doing and to be aware. And then we would need a match fund from you.
Not dollar for dollar. though.
No, yes, definitely not dollar for dollar.
In our discussion on email, it seemed like we were asked to contribute $1,000.
That definitely would qualify as a match. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it would definitely qualify as a match. And, so any of the reporting, any of the accountability would definitely be with the grantee, which would be Marion Health. We just see the need is huge, and we feel like if we can do a little bit more while we have them in our services, that would only enhance that warm handoff. That's what's being called a lot in our service world, especially in to warm handoff to longer treatment plans, to services, therapy, counseling, et cetera. So I know that was a lot of words in a few minutes, but
What does the $1,000, we agree to that, what does that give you?
it basically just gives us the right to ask for this grant. I mean, it will be used for the grant, no doubt about it. But as you can see here, there are several funds it could come from. Because obviously you have different line items that you're dealing with. It could come from the settlement that you got in the fall. If those funds have not all been committed, that would be acceptable. The American Rescue Plan, if the county received any dollars from that, it could come out of that. It's allowed to come from your general funds, even a private contribution. And we were joking earlier when we were talking about this presentation that if Elon Musk showed up and wanted to donate, a lot of money, you could use his money, but it would have to come through you. So that's kind of the interesting caveat that they have put on this grant. And in all of my grant writing world, and I think Melissa could probably agree with us, we have never had to do anything this fast. And so that's why we're like, boom, here.
Let me ask it a different way. So if we do $1,000, do you know how much, that you will get for the $1,000 that we're committed?
That's a great question. When we apply for federal grants, you get what you apply for or you don't get it. With state, we have had the scenario where they give you part of it. So let's say we ask for 500,000, they may say, oh, we're going to only give you 375. Well, then you have to, readjust your work plan, readjust what you're going to do. They may give us the whole amount. We're hearing, actually my colleague Pam sat on like 6 hours of calls with the state to listen to this. And they implied that if it's a strong grant, they're going to grant it. I feel like, but we never know. We've had several other grants where they haven't given all of it to us. Which is another reason we wanted to make sure no one else from Grant County was applying for this, because in a sense that could weaken our proposal. But in the same realm, we didn't want this to go. We wanted Grant County to get some of these dollars. We really do. And now we do know there will be settlements coming down that you may be more aware of than us, but from Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens, there'll be additional money that will be divvied out to Indiana. And how that will be distributed, I have not really heard yet. But, this opioid settlement, I think, is going to go on for a while. But after we were presented with this and we presented it to our leadership, to Stephanie, she was like, well, we need to try for it if nobody else wants to. And we spoke pretty at length with Judge Spitzer, and he just said, because I knew he was on the original distribution committee, and he just said, hey, we'll support you in any way you need because we need these dollars in Grant County. We have not finalized the budget yet. We're hoping to do that today or tomorrow. Obviously, it needs to be turned in next week. We had about an hour meeting last night with Stephanie and several other leadership trying to hone in how we're doing that, but I can't give you specifics yet. A lot of it will be for salary though, to enhance our staff that could be a little more dedicated to this issue.
Do you think you're going to be able to find that staff?
Good question. Good question. Well, we have 2 social work students right over there that we're trying to groom for later, We do know that can be an issue, but we have heard from some of the people that are working in that field that there is a couple of possibilities that might want to work for us in this setting, but of course, we don't know that.
I think it's a very minute dollar that could bring in hundreds fold in our community.
And I mean, if the grant were not awarded to us, there would not be any commitment on your part.
Right.
But we would need the signature and what fund that it comes out of before we submit the grant and the amount.
That would be our biggest determination. Do we want to designate $1,000 out?
I mean, would take more if you're happy to give us more.
Unrestricted, would that $1,000 or so be able to fall out of that, in that area, you think?
Think so.
I mean, the fact that the state has actually given us, we can take it out of the opioid, we can take it out of ARPA, or we can take it out of our local funds. I think they've done their homework, so we could draw from that. We just needed to determine what that would be today. Move forward.
I believe the several page document that she says that you can, the approved activities is Exhibit E.
Okay.
I think it's the same one.
It
All
is-
right.
It is Exhibit E.
And so I would ask the question, coming out of the opioid settlement or the ARP, what is the most restricted? You know, I would want to take it out where we would have a little bit more leeway on that account, where we could use it for other things.
Right.
So which one would be the most restricted, and it fits the bill, and we can take it out of that fund? That makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
I would say either of the top two, either the opioid settlement money or the ARPA money, because the ARPA has a component, 5 different areas. One of them is health, mental health, that type of thing that we could utilize funds. And we would just have to designate that as a part of the amended resolution on that money. And that's going to be forthcoming. We would just need to determine the day as we approve something, where that would come from.
Would it make sense just to go ahead and take it from the settlement?
I think it's wise. $1,000 isn't going to kill Melissa's plans and the judge's plans for what we want to do. And I would try and draw from the unrestricted funds instead of, what you're already designating as where we think we need to go with that. I think that's a good idea. And ultimately, we will have to develop a resolution for our opioid settlement disbursement, where we're going to send all that money. So much like the ARPA, we have to say we're going to give $1,000 to a matching grant for this, that, and just designate it. I do think that makes sense.
So a little bit of money for a lot of money. That's what I'm looking at.
It's good. Yeah, good.
So that's almost a no-brainer. Fund that for $1,000. Did Jared need a motion for this?
We would definitely need a motion, since it's requesting, we're utilizing our funds or county funds, and then having Marion Health apply for a grant.
I would make a motion that we give authorization to dispense local funds for the state of Indiana opioid settlement match grant to the tune of $1,000.
I second that motion.
We have a motion with support. Discussion, other questions we need to ask? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Very well, Kelly. Thank you.
All right, next up, Don Osborne, Indiana Motorcycle Preservation Society. I would tell you to run up, Don, but I know.
I was point guard in our church league basketball game last night. Got injured.
You funneled the ball over to Mike Rohrbach and he's stuffed it, right?
I am not asking for money.
Well, you can step to the podium.
Labor Day, 1920. People from California to Connecticut descended on Grant County for the second annual International Cornfield Classic Motorcycle Race. It was toward the end of the gas boom wealth that Grant
Grant County enjoyed. And motorcycling was starting to boom as a great interest. So young men from across the United States brought their Harley Davidsons and their Indian motorcycles and their Excelsiors. And several of them raced 200 miles around the circuit just west of Marion, out there by Troy Avenue, west 38th Street in that area, through the cornfields. The top three finishers in 1920 were all Harley Davidson riders. And as the winner crossed the finish line, a young man named Ray Wisher, he was handed a piglet. And so, in good humor, with the crowds laughing, he carried that pig on his Harley Davidson for a victory lap around that circuit out there. And somebody made the comment that, well, those bikes really must be powered by hogs. And it became a nickname for Harley Davidson motorcyclers, which still is in place today. Now, I checked the veracity of this story with a representative, a regional representative from Harley Davidson Motorcycles, and he said he was very familiar with this story. And in fact, at the Harley Davidson headquarters in Milwaukee, where they have a museum, there is a special exhibit about Marion and Grant County, Indiana, being the home of the hog. So the Indiana Motorcycle Preservation Society is a not-for-profit organization that looks to preserve the history of motorcycling in Indiana, and particularly in Grant County. So last year, we attempted a reenactment, if you will, of that race, and we got rained out. So again, we are requesting permission from the county commissioners to do that race all over again around the original circuit, only we're not going to do it for speed. It is to be done as a time trial. The activities leading up to that is members of the Indiana Motorcycle Preservation Society will each individually ride their motorcycles around that original circuit, stopping at all the stop signs, obeying all the traffic laws, and will be timed, and then their time will be averaged to become the ideal that participants will have to match. So people that are going to ride in the actual race will have to go no faster than 50 miles an hour, stop at all the stop signs, not any rolling stops, and they will be observed by sheriff auxiliary folks. The sheriff has given his blessing to this and has agreed to provide auxiliary deputies to make sure it all happens as it should. And whoever comes in closest to the time that we designate, and we're not going to tell them what that time is, whoever comes in closest to that time at the end wins a purse. Now, last year, the purse was $1,000. We didn't have to award it because we got rained out. Not sure what the purse is going to be this year, but probably a similar amount. So we are requesting from the county commissioners the privilege of reenacting that race as a time trial out there around the original circuit for two reasons: to promote safe motorcycling, and two, to get as many people as we can to come to Marion and Grant County and spend their money here. So instead of asking for money, we're wanting permission to promote something that will bring money here. So what say you?
You're asking for Labor Day, it'll be September 4th this year, or?
No, Labor Day was going to happen in 1920.
Okay,
We want to do it on June 3rd.
June 3rd. And if I recall, Don, we did get a waiver that our attorney had worked with you, and we approved that so that there's no liability issue for the county.
Right.
Even though it's on county roads, the riders are taking responsibility for any actions or problems, so.
Correct.
But we do have to authorize that type of an event, so.
Well, being a former hog rider, don't have it anymore, but a lot of fun when I did. I was very familiar with this event and did a lot of work down there in the park when we had it there off of State Road 18 and well attended, good crowds, lots of fun. And I think it's a great Convention and Visitor Bureau type event for our community. And you're right, hotels, our restaurants, everything benefits when people come into town. All these businesses benefit from an event such as this. And so I think it's a great thing. I would be more than happy to make that motion that we allow for June 3rd, that Hog Days happens again.
Not Hog Days.
Not Hog Days. It's
Indiana Motorcycle Preservation Society is sponsoring this.
Very good. There you go. And that's what I would recommend, as well as the location of the event to take place.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
I'll second that motion.
You have a hog?
I do not. I need a vote.
No.
My wife won't let me have one unless it has 3 wheels. We have a motion with support to approve the request of the Indiana Motorcycle Preservation Society for use of the Grant County roads for the special ride. And any other questions, gentlemen?
Do we need to redo that waiver?
Probably should.
The only thing we'd have to do is change the date. And I think Kyle could do that for us. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. It is carried.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
John, thanks for your involvement in this. I mean, it takes a team of people together to do some great things for Grant County. And,
Thanks, Steve.
it'd be good. Looking forward to it.
We need to sit down and have a couple coffees.
We do.
All right, our presentation of the Malcon agreement, Auditor Jarvis, do you want to talk to us about that?
This is just a continuation of an agreement that we've had in prior years with Malcon for ambulance reimbursements.
And basically, there are certain funds that the state allows us to be reimbursed for after we pay them out. And so he helps us to isolate those and file our paperwork with the state so that money is returned to our general fund balance.
So I see a cost here, for up to $19,000, right? What kind of led me to a question here, because it says audit defense fees after the final notice has been issued will be billed at a rate of $175. So we've had past practice with this company. Have we received extra billing after
No.
the original? No. Okay. That was my question. I saw that in the contract. It's like, because you can run up a bill pretty quick at $175 now.
I forget how many different departments we have used this for. We've used it at the courthouse, we've used it maybe even for county highway. Did we do that, or was it just EMS out there? Recovering from, yeah, I think it's probably just EMS. But at one point, we were losing these fees and Mr. Malinowski basically left the company to start this so he could help counties retrieve some of those funds, so. What is your desire regarding continuing our relationship with Malcon?
Mr. President, I would move that we pass the proposal for the preparation of Medicaid ambulance cost reports. And that'll be my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion with Mr. Wright, second, Mr. Stewart. Pretty cut and dry. He helps us get some money back, so yeah. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, it is carried, and we get that signed and ready to go. All right, we have the farm lease bid openings, and Mr. Sadoff, do you want to tell us what we've got?
Sure, this would be pretty easy since only one bid was received. This is for the 71 acres of farmland over by the highway department in Gas City. Minimum offering price was $250 per acre. The bid must be accompanied by a $1,000 check to Greene County, and the bid was submitted to me directly from Mr. Michael DeVore, who's present here and currently farms the land. So I will open this. Obviously, with one bid, there is no auction needed. Check is present, and he has put in a bid of $260 per acre.
Right, we've received a bid for $260 an acre. We have no other bids. We have the option of accepting that today, taking it under advisement and acting by March 6th. What are your thoughts, John?
I say we take it under advisement. Back by March 6th.
Right, we will take the bid under advisement and act on March 6th. And
Just to be clear, no other bids would be coming in because that was the only bid that we received, correct? And it was done in a timely manner and stuff, so, see much changing between now and then. I'm trying to change your mind or anything, but in the same token, I don't really see a reason to go ahead and to put it off.
What was it in the past? Do we know what it was last year?
It's 250 an acre, was it last year?
Do you know, do you remember what it currently was?
Yeah, for the last 3 years, it was 250.
250?
so we're actually ahead. We have a reasonable bid.
Has farmed this for the last 3 years, is that
Yes.
correct? And previous to that, right?
For the last 6.
Oh, yeah, gotcha, I didn't know. I'll make it, actually, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve 71 acres, to accept the bid.
Okay.
The $260.
And I'll second that.
Motion to accept the bid and the lease, it's a 3-year lease to Mr. DeVore. And we have a second, Mr. Wright. Any other discussion? Hearing
Can I
none.
get his last, DeVore, is that his last name? Is that correct, sir? Yes, sir. D-E-O-R-E. Thank you.
All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is carried. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, we do have 2 other items that come in. We have an assignment request from Swayze, resolution of the board regarding a transfer of tax sale certificate, real property parcel number 27-5-26-202-005.000-28 with a property address of 101 South Taylor Street, Swayze. Loan owned by Charles E. Watkins with a partial description that has that. Gas City has asked that we assign that to them to take it out of the commissioner's sale. And once we assign, then they would go through the redemption process if that gentleman wants to redeem it. If not, they'll take over that parcel. So we have been asked to consider that. If we were to do that, what resolution would we have?
Three.
So we would have a resolution number 3 of 2023 if we wanted to assign that to Swayze.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve approve resolution 323. Transfer tax sale certificate to Smithfield.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Stewart, second, Mr. Wright. Any further discussion?
Sir.
Hearing none. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is carried. And then I think Justin has a data request for us.
Yes, there was a GIS data request from Ryan LLC. Inquiring about parcel account numbers, parcel situs, address information, owner name and mailing address, assessed and taxable values, legal descriptions, acreage, property classification codes, tax areas and districts, exemptions applied. So they are looking for permission to work with Schneider. Just need to consent to that. I'll get the two working together.
And Schneider is,
Our GIS, that's what we go through.
Because they hold that data, they do not release it without our consent. And that standard operating procedure, we just give that approval.
you see in front of you?
No,
Okay. I would make a motion that we approve the authorization to go ahead and deliver that data request.
I second that motion.
motion, Mr. Wright, second, Mr. Stewart. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, that covers the new business that I was aware of. Gentlemen, do you have other items?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We will move to public comments opportunity. At this time, the public is invited to speak to the board. Please approach the podium when recognized by the president. State your name and address for our records. Comments should be addressed to the board and limited to items of the agenda. No complaints, accusations, name calling regarding personnel can be allowed during this public discussion time. Time limit of 3 minutes will be given. More than one person is represented for a group, only one spokesperson will be heard. It's expected that the professionalism and courtesy is displayed at all times during public comments portion of the meeting. You would like to address the Board of Commissioners, we acknowledge you and get you to the podium. I see our EMA director is in. You didn't get to address this earlier. Anything you need to share with us, Bob?
They don't have anything new today.
Right, I see that the sheriff is in as well. Sheriff, anything? All right.
Judge Spencer.
I did see Judge hiding back there. We got through all of our discussion earlier on the stuff. Judge, anything that you wanted to say?
We've got our 11:30 meeting, right?
We do.
Okay, so I'm here for that.
All right. Very good. Anyone else? All right. Hearing none, we will declare ourselves in recess till March 6th. Thank you. We down here or upstairs? All right.